Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda. Hello, Carly. Hello, Jill.
Hello, David.
Hello, David. Yes. Now you get a chorus of women.
Yeah.
You probably always wanted that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome everyone to episode 269. This is the conclusion of the personal work that David and Jill did with Carly Zankman. And I forgot to say last time that Carly Zankman is a psychologist in private practice in Mountain View. And I want to wish all of our American listeners a happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will be coming up this week.
And now we'll listen to the assessment of resistance, the A of TEAM, and the M, the methods. And then we'll do some end of session testing, and then we'll have some concluding comments and follow-up comments from our wonderful Carly and our wonderful Jill.
So, given that, I think I would like to ask you, and David, I love the directions you mentioned too, but maybe we could ask you the miracle cure question, right? And then we can sort of figure out how to address that. But if a miracle happened tonight and you got, just what you wanted out of our session tonight, what would happen? What would be different?
I think, of course, I don't have any control around what happens with this pregnancy.
Right.
And so I think in the event that I'm not 15% that this happens to again, since I was already the 1%, so anything is possible at this point. If that does happen, I would like to, not fall back into this depression and be able to, of course, experience an appropriate level of sadness, but, not start believing all these thoughts again at this high of a level.
So are you saying, I think I understood it, but I want to make sure you're saying, yes, as we would agree, we don't have any control over what ends up happening to your body in the next few weeks, although we'll all be hoping for you for the best. But I think you're saying that maybe what you would want would be in the event that you had was I understanding you right? Another ectopic pregnancy, you would, of course, understandably feel some level of sadness, but you would want to not believe all of these thoughts and not, fall apart or something. I don't know exactly the word you use, but have a healthy sadness, of course, but also, not feel totally hopeless and there's no chance for these kinds of things.
Yeah, I think you've got it right.
Okay. And so I think, David, that's kind of along the lines of, relapse prevention, or just working on these thoughts on the daily mood log. But the difference being we wouldn't work on these thoughts like if you had the thought, I'm never going to get pregnant again, we wouldn't be able to challenge it by being well, I am pregnant, right? Because we want to help you with this. I mean, we could say, it was easy for me to get pregnant a second time, but we would want to help you with these thoughts in the case that you had a second ectopic pregnancy. It's almost like you want to prevent against, be prepared to cope with that possibility.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm also curious around what David was going at when things he was mentioning before.
About the downward arrow.
The downward arrow. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be curious to kind of hear what you were thinking around what.
Kind of like some of the issues that Daisy was dealing with on that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Hers was, I'm doomed if I never get pregnant, and I'm doomed if I get pregnant.
Yeah.
Both. She had both of those things going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could start off with that, but we and Jill always follows the procedures, and David jumps around and makes mistakes. And so just to stop David from making a big mistake right now, we need to deal with some resistance here, Jill, and I need your help with it because I'm not seeing it at the moment.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Yeah. Let me think about it for a minute. So, well, let me ask a question because I think I see part of it, I think. But
Good.
If we were going to do that, David, I would want to follow your rules, which would be pretty specific, right? So I'd be looking at this daily mood log that's in front of me, right? And
yeah.
Okay. So let me take a stab at that. So, if we had a magic button here, right, and we press that magic button, and you walked out of our session this evening, and the reality was that you felt, totally prepared to deal with having another ectopic pregnancy. And you didn't feel at all, like pessimistic and worried and down and depressed about that. Would you press that button?
No, because like I said before, I think there's a normal level of sadness and pessimism and frustration to feel if that did happen again.
Yeah.
But I think I don't want to feel it to this level and believe these thoughts to such a high level where I kind of can't really see past it or have any other solution in my life.
Let me do a downward arrow. We could do positive reframing, Jill, very easily. But could we just do a downward arrow to see where it leads? And I'll be doing this on paper. Everyone should do this on paper, in my opinion, or type it if that's the way you do it. But let's take, say, the first thought. And we're hoping that I'm never going to get pregnant again, and we're hoping that's not true, and we're assuming that's probably not true.
Right. Well, I know that's not true because I'm pregnant right now.
Right. But let's say that something turned out and you lost this pregnancy and could not, in fact, get pregnant again. And that would be pretty awful. But just put a downward arrow under that thought. And then the question would be, what would that mean to you? Why would that be upsetting to you? Obviously, you would like to have your own baby and your own children, but suppose you couldn't get pregnant again. What then? What would be the worst thing?
I think it would be upsetting to me because, that would then mean that it would. I think it would need to be. I'm never going to get pregnant again. Like naturally, would actually be the
right
the thought. So it would be that getting pregnant is going to be hard or challenging or more difficult. It would be upsetting because it's going to be a longer process and take a lot more time.
So that it will be harder and take more time. And then what is the most frightening thing to you about that, or what would that mean to you?
Like I'll continue to feel unfulfilled in my life.
Right. Now, that's an emotion. One rule is you can't put an emotion in the negative thought column. And so what's the thought that would make you feel unfulfilled in my life? Why I'd be unfulfilled in my life because?
Without children?
Is that I can't be truly fulfilled without children?
Yeah, that's it.
Put that down. I can't be truly happy and fulfilled without children. And there's a really great question to ask, a downward arrow question to ask from here, and Jill will ask it. This might be like a kind of bottom line too.
Right. Yeah, I guess I would just say, let's imagine that you couldn't have children. What would be most upsetting about that to you?
Yes. Why would I be feeling unhappy and unfulfilled if I couldn't have children? What would be about that would? Yeah, that's a good question, Jill. What would that mean to me? Why would that be upsetting to me?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to have everything that like I want in my life. I don't know if I'm getting to what you guys are looking for.
So put that down. I wouldn't get. I'll let you continue with it since it's your question, Jill. I wouldn't get everything I want in life.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I'll just ask a question. And so are you saying that unless I get everything I want in life, I can't feel happy and fulfilled?
Yeah, I think so.
And would we go further with that, Jill, or would we just say that itself could be the self-defeating belief?
I guess I would ask, okay, Carly, let me just try one thing. So if it were true that you couldn't have children in life, yeah, I think David asked this, but what would be most upsetting about that to you? Like, what do you imagine? What would be most upsetting about that? Is it like I would be alone forever, or life would have no meaning? Or I'm just wondering.
I think that's it. I think life would have no meaning, but this is also hard to imagine because I know that, you know, with like fertility treatment, that I would like have almost like 100% chance with my uterus and my ovaries and everything functioning well that I could get pregnant. So it's hard to imagine that I could never have.
Yeah.
Children.
Right. That's not, in other words, that isn't actually what you're most upset about. Like your mind hasn't gone to like, and I won't get pregnant to be able to have children. It's like, you said I won't be able to get pregnant naturally is what you sort of edited it to. And then you were saying, so the worst thing that would happen if I couldn't get pregnant naturally, that would mean I'd have to, for example, do IVF or something, and it would be work, and my having children would be delayed, and it would be slow, and it would take more time. Mm-hmm. But you don't actually worry that you wouldn't be able to have children.
I mean, I think there's like a small like part of me that worried about that, but I think that, you know, even talking to the fertility specialist, she was like, we would just remove your remaining tube and all your other parts are good. And we would do IVF and you know, I feel pretty confident I could get you pregnant pretty easily. So that, wasn't something that I'm like very, very worried about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we get to the bottom and we say, then I wouldn't have any children, life would have no meaning. That doesn't like resonate for you. It doesn't feel that you're concerned about.
Although you did write that exact thing on your daily mood log, thought number 4, which you believe 75%. I'm never going to...
and so this was before I saw the fertility doctor. These were my thoughts that I was having before, like I went through all of that. But at this point I was thinking, I'm never going to get pregnant and I'll never be fulfilled. But right now I don't think I believe that anymore.
Right. But you would still be believing that if you can't get pregnant, then you can feel happy and fulfilled.
Yeah. Right. Yes, you're correct. So if that were to happen and let's say IVF didn't work and I couldn't get pregnant, I would believe that I would never be fulfilled.
And that, too, is something we could work on, but it sounds like that, Jill, might not be necessarily high on Carly's agenda.
It sounds to me like that's not high on Carly's agenda, because she feels it's sort of like if I said, if my leg got amputated, I could never be happy and fulfilled, but I don't think that that's going to happen. And I mean, it's not the way Carly thought about it before, but at this point, Carly, you're saying you don't really see that as a likely scenario.
Yeah, I don't see it as a likely scenario, but I would, if some horrible thing happened and that were the case, I would believe that. If I couldn't get pregnant and multiple IVFs failed, and I would believe that I would never be fulfilled.
So I guess we could ask Carly. I don't know, David, you tell me. I'm totally happy to go in whatever direction you want to take us in. We could also ask Carly, for example, are there thoughts on her daily mood log that are still believable to her that she would want to work on? And or we could still go through all of the thoughts on her daily mood log, some of which she may easily be able to knock out of the park, and some of which maybe she may still feel more stuck on.
Yeah, we're on the same page for sure. Yeah.
Should we do I wonder though, like, does it seems like it makes sense to do, if we are going to do the daily mood log work, figure out how to do a quick positive reframing, like a 10-minute rather than 40-minute, something like that.
That's always a good idea.
Does that make sense? Or do you want to leave the downward arrow alone, or is there more work you want to do on that?
You're asking me or David?
Oh, either one of you.
I could answer that, but Carly knows the correct answer, so I'll let her answer.
I mean, it's probably not like a good belief to have in general, I think, even if that's not really possible. So maybe it's worth looking at.
Well, we could pick it up along with a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
But
yeah, but I think the relapse prevention piece was probably on the top of my list if we only have time for.
Well, why don't we? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So let's do the 10-minute or even the 5-minute positive reframe, and then dive into externalization of voices.
So let's see, Carly, you said when I asked you the magic button question, you kind of leaned toward the dial already. You're like, no, I don't think I do want all of my feelings to go to zero. I don't want to feel, if I have another ectopic pregnancy, I don't want to feel happy and have, zero level of emotion. But let's talk a little bit then about, you're saying you already told us, like, feeling sad when you like lose something that you care about, right? Like your fallopian tube, for example, or the possibility of what that means. It would make sense to feel sad, right? Like I think that's what I was hearing from you. So some level of sadness and grief would be really normal and make a lot of sense. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what I was thinking. I think it would be more grief, which is not a problem.
Exactly.
With grief, it shows, how important it is to you to have a baby and to get pregnant. And is that true, that it, feels really important to you to be able to get pregnant?
Yeah. I think that also with the anxiety, the sadness and the anxiety, like you can see how much this anxiety has kind of fueled me, like you said, to have a plan and kind of take charge of the situation and figure all this stuff out. And
what does it show about you that's positive and awesome? That's what's helpful about the anxiety and depression. But what does it show about you, Carly, that's really, really beautiful?
I mean, that this is something that I really want, and that I'm very determined to make things happen that I want.
Why is that a beautiful, good thing about you?
I don't know, I'm feeling stuck.
Well, I mean, what I'm asking is this kindergarten level. But does it show that being a mother is something incredibly important to you?
Yes.
And is that a beautiful thing about you?
Yeah, definitely. I that's something I really, really want.
Yeah, it shows your passion for that.
Also, you told us, I just think, even in your brief discussing your Shabbat family and your relationship with your sister, I'm guessing just that family is so important to you, right? That building a family and having a family is so important to you.
Yes, it's the most important thing to me.
And then you're feeling inadequate and defective. What does that show about you that's really positive and awesome?
I think it in some way shows a bit of like realism that like I can see that I clearly have health issues and that I'm not like running from them, that I'm like trying to, I think, accept that.
Yeah. What else is it? That's right. You're very realistic and honest in assessing things. But what else does that show about you that's really positive and awesome?
That I'm able to like see my flaws.
Yeah. That's all true enough, but I was just thinking how it shows that you have a lot of humility and vulnerability as a woman, as a human being.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, that's a very good thing. I think it was.
Is that real? Is that powerful?
Yes.
Yeah. And now another one here that I don't fully understand. You've been feeling pretty lonely and put on my glasses here, and you've been making unloved and alone, and you've also been making statements like that and low marital satisfaction. Nobody really cares about what happened to me, and I'm all alone in this. Maybe you need to tell us just a little bit more about that piece of it.
Yeah, I think those thoughts were coming from what I shared about, nobody really reaching out or checking in Philadelphia. But then I think, my husband has been there through this whole thing, but he's not very like a very emotional person himself, where I'm the opposite. I'm pretty emotional and expressive. And he had his experience after, he really thought that I was going to die. And for like the 3 days following my surgery and coming home, he cried like all day long and opened up a lot to me and my sister about how he was feeling and how terrifying it was for him.
Wow.
To have to wait out there in the parking lot and then come home and like try to sleep without me in the bed. And so he shared a lot about how he was feeling, and that was amazing and very connecting for us. But then he kind of just went back to his life, and like we didn't really talk about it a lot again. And I was getting more and more stressed about my ovulation and all of those things. And so I think I felt after it happened, like we were just supposed to kind of go back to our lives and move on. And so that was the part where I was feeling alone in this of, I'm here, like still really, I was very calm during the thing, and I didn't have as much of an emotional reaction to the experience itself while it was happening, but it was more the after effect. And having to go through trying to get pregnant again led me to feel alone.
Well, I don't mean to be changing the name of the game halfway across the river, but is that something we should be focusing on or working on?
What's that, David?
Well, the idea that I had that one great experience with my husband, and he was just 100% all there, and crying and scared and emotional and vulnerable. But now he's gone back to his normal way of being, which is not real open and emotional, and so Carly's feeling lonely again and kind of alone and a little unhappy in the relationship. That I'm just thinking that could, in theory, be another focus for what we're doing, since there's still some meat on that bone, so to speak. There's still something there. But I'm just speculating. We'll see what Carly thinks.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's an avenue that we could go. I think that's just a long-standing kind of challenge in my relationship, is like the mismatch of emotional expression from him and me, and that's been a challenge. But I wouldn't say like we're having a lot of conflict or arguments or anything like that, but I definitely have felt kind of alone up until
when you feel alone when you're with him, but you feel alone. Like, have you shared with him your feelings about what's happening to you?
Yeah, I've been very open about that, and he did make some changes. Like, he researched some things and kind of got more up to speed around the PCOS piece and what was going on, and was more interested in some of the fertility appointment and all of that. But I think there was part of me that was like, I wish he was maybe taking equal initiative in all of this, and it wasn't just me that was feeling so driven to kind of figure this out.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say one thing, which was, as we were talking about your loneliness and positive reframing, that I do think your feelings of loneliness and alone and unwanted or unloved, whether it's in your relationship with your husband or when you were with family in Philadelphia, it just speaks to how important it is to you to connect, right? To feel connected, to be seen, to have people want to understand you and know you and to share feelings, and that sounds like an important value of yours and something that's important to you. And so I would totally understand that when you're not receiving that, whether it be from relatives or from your husband, or even ahead of time in the group, not knowing, am I going to get, the kind of support that I'm looking for, that you would feel, kind of lonely.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I will add that he has started reading Feeling Good, and so he is going through that book. And so that was some initiative that he did. I mean, Feeling Great. He's reading Feeling Great. That he did take. So, I mean, he shows in his own way that he cares, but I think I'm just much more expressive in how I share that with everyone in my life, I think, not just him.
If this was your agenda, this is something I think where we would have something significant to contribute. But I'm not pushing it. I think it's such a common problem between couples, that not sharing feelings enough and feeling really, really close. And when most people try to solve that problem, they kind of go around in circles. And that's pretty easily solvable with the 5 secrets. Although relationship things are often more challenging than the solutions would suggest, due to resistance type issues. But I mean, we could even look at that right now. To me, that feels slightly more like something to work on than this other stuff that seems like yesterday's mail or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean, because I think you're really, you were doing a beautiful job on the positive reframing, and I think you can probably knock these thoughts out of the park. Maybe we should just go ahead and do that, though, so we complete
why don't
something.
we do that, David? Because that way we'll know. I mean, if we do it and Carly's like, yep, I'm rocking, then maybe we have time and we move in another direction. But if not, then we'll know, and then we've got some work to do.
That's great, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Carly?
I think some of these thoughts might still be like, I might get stuck, that there might still be some sticking points on some of these. Maybe not the I'm never going to get pregnant or.
Okay, well, let's dive in.
Ones,
Can we just dive into externalization of voices, Jill?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Carly, though, given all of the benefits, right, to all these thoughts and feelings and all the things that they say about you that are so beautiful and awesome and such an expression of your values, why would you want to work with us to change these feelings? Like, why would you want to change them at all?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said before. I think, dialing them down a little bit so that if this were to happen again, I wouldn't feel so horrible and wouldn't have these beliefs at such a intense level.
Yeah. So let's look quickly then at your goal column, and then we can go to externalization voices if we want. But so you're sad, blue, depressed, down, unhappy. You were at 90%. What would be your goal? And again, this is imagining you had an ectopic pregnancy, right? And what would be your goal? How down would you want to feel?
Maybe like 60.
Okay, 60%. So that's not when you were looking to change a ton, but some. And how panicky, nervous would you want to feel? You were 85%. What would be your goal?
I think like 30%.
Mm-hmm. And how about guilty? You were feeling 15% guilty. How guilty would you want to feel?
I think like very like 0. I mean, I don't think there should be a reason why I would feel guilty about this.
Okay. So 0% guilt. And how defective and incompetent would you want to feel? You're 50% now.
Inadequate and defective.
Oh, what did I say? Inadequate and defective? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's confusing. Sometimes on the forums, the box is after. Sometimes it's before. Right. Inadequate and defective, like 10%.
10%. Okay. Mm-hmm. And how about the lonely, unloved, unwanted, alone?
Probably similar, like 10%.
10%. So you're at 90 and you want to go to 10. How about, actually, I don't have what was circled. Hopeless, discouraged, 75%. Where would you want
Discouraged and pessimistic.
Okay.
20%.
20%. And how about the next row? What do you have circled?
Frustrated
and stuck.
And that's at 75%. And where would you want that to go?
I mean, I think if this were to happen again, there'd be a normal level of frustration to feel. So like 40.
Okay. 40%.
I mean, I'm sorry, it would be normal to feel frustrated. Yeah.
And angry.
And then anger, annoyed, and upset would be probably like 60.
Okay. Now, what's your name?
Carly.
What's my name?
Carly.
And what's Jill's name?
Carly.
Okay. So I'll start out. Let's just dive right into externalization of voices and see if there's anything you get stuck on. Carly, now that you've had your second ectopic pregnancy, we're assuming that therefore you're never. This shows you're never going to get pregnant again.
Yeah, that's not true. I would, I will just remove my tube and do IVF and likely have a very successful outcome with that. So I think I would get pregnant again.
Well, I'll do two, and then you can take over, Jill. Yeah, but this only happens to a tiny percent of the pregnancies and tiny percent of the population. Of course, it would happen to you. That's pretty unfair, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That is unfair. Yeah, it is. That is unfair.
Okay, who won that?
You won.
Right. You want to try a role reversal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Carly, this only happens in 1% of pregnancies, but of course it would happen to you.
And why should that be upsetting to me? I'm not that bright, so you have to spell it out.
Because that's unfair.
It's unfair. Well, you know, it's actually not unfair. It's unfortunate, and it's sad. I've had a lot of blessings in my life, and I've had some tragedies too, and this is one of them. But only human beings can be unfair. You know, an act of nature can't be unfair. And so I'm going to go with unfortunate and sad, but it's not the end of my life. It's not the end of my happiness, and I have a lot of other avenues open for me. In fact, my problem isn't these misfortunes. I have a different, much worse problem than that.
Yeah, you definitely won there. I think I noticed, I don't think that it's because I think it's unfair. I think this is the part that comes up where I think that I'm like, there's something wrong with me, or like the defective piece comes up.
Could I talk to you for a minute, Carly?
Yes.
I want to tell you the real scoop is that this shows that there's something wrong with you.
Well, there's nothing wrong with me. I just have had a lot of health problems and this recent health problem, and those things have been outside of my control. And so there's nothing wrong with me.
Who won?
Me.
Big or small?
I think it was big.
Big or huge?
I think it was just big.
Just big. So here's one we can work on. You want to try a role reversal and see if Jill will take the positive, and you can attack that. That's the positive Carly over there. Is that okay, Jill?
Sure.
Okay, and so I'll add that end part of it on, like I did. This only happens in 1% of pregnancies, but of course, it would happen to you because there's something wrong with you because of all these health problems that you have.
Well, I think, the fact is I have had some health problems. So I've had, things wrong with my health. Like that part is accurate, but it sounds like you're trying to say that there's something like globally wrong with me as a person. And that doesn't make any sense, right? Like if my fallopian tube has problems, that doesn't really mean like I, Carly, am defective or have problems as a human being. But, it's accurate to say I've had some health problems. That's about it. So who won that, you or me?
You did.
And was that big or small?
I thought that one was huge, definitely.
Okay. Awesome.
What's the idea there? How did Jill get to huge? Because this is important. This is the cause of all depression that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I think it was, there was some acceptance, definitely, but also like the specific, like she was being specific about more what actually is that there's things in my body that might be wrong with it. Doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah. Do you like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Now,
I did like that.
I want to see if you've really got this, and I'm going to be a dear friend of yours, but not someone you know, but someone just like you. And could I talk to you for a minute, Carly?
Yes.
You know, I've had two ectopic pregnancies, and it's going to be a lot of trouble for me to get pregnant. And I've been telling myself this means that there's something wrong with me as a woman, as a human being. And that thought is pretty painful to me. And I know you're kind of an expert in this area. Would you say that my thinking is correct?
No, there's definitely not something wrong with you. I think it's true that these health problems have made things hard for you, and that there's things that might be going wrong in your body, but that doesn't at all mean that there's something wrong with you, or that this is your fault, or that you could have done anything that would have changed this or made this outcome different.
No, I like what you're saying, but you just bullshitting me to be nice. You're just blowing smoke in my face and telling me what you think I want to hear. You're just being nice to me.
No, I really meant that.
Cool. So who won that one?
I did.
Yeah. Big or small?
Yeah. Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Do you see that pretty clearly?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll show you another way to defeat this thought that there's something wrong with you. I'll be the positive Carly, you be the negative. And then we'll turn it back to Jill. But go ahead.
I know where you're going with this.
You do know?
Me too.
You know all my tricks.
And you do it a few times. Really, this only happens in 1% of pregnancies, but of course it would happen to you because there's something wrong with you.
Well, there's a lot of things that are wrong with me. As a matter of fact, there's almost nothing about me that couldn't be improved. But I have this one really big problem.
What's that?
Listening to your bullshit.
Yes, that's very true.
How'd you like that one? Who won that?
You won.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Yeah. And can you see that? It's the inner bully, really, that we do this to ourselves. It's so odd that we do this as intelligent human beings. You never be mean like that to someone else, a dear friend, a woman. Now, Jill, can you attack Carly, and you be the negative Carly, and see how
Carly to practice that one? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
see if she can do it.
Sure. So yeah, Carly, remember this only happens in 1% of pregnancies, but of course it happened to you, which shows that there's something wrong with you.
No, I think there was something wrong with my body, and there is, something wrong with the functioning in my body, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me.
She's sticking with her huge win. And David, were you wanting Carly to practice your version?
I don't have any strong opinions. She was sticking with her self-defense paradigm, which was the one you taught her, but find out if it's big or huge or small.
Right. So was that big or small?
No, I think that one was huge before, especially after the double standard. That really made it huge.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let's take another one. Do you have look on your sheet and give us something else to attack you with? Jill can attack you again, but give us something that's still on either side of your daily mood log.
Yeah, I'm number 4.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, you can hack into this one, Jill.
Okay, so Carly, remember you just had another ectopic pregnancy, and so that means that you are never going to feel fulfilled in your life.
Yeah, that's one I still would believe. I don't have a good argument here.
Okay. So,
I could do some acceptance and say, yes, I would never feel fulfilled in my life.
Right. Well, I guess I have two questions. It seems to me there's two levels of response. Maybe we call that the, I don't know, low level solution or high level solution, or maybe not. But there was a part of you that was originally thinking like you could respond to that by basically saying, well, even if I can't get pregnant naturally, I could get pregnant through IVF. So like the idea that now I'm suddenly not going to be fulfilled, it's not like I am not going to be able to have children, right?
Right.
So it seemed to me like you do have a reasonable response to this one, but maybe what you're wanting is a good response to the, like, you can't have children, therefore you're never going to feel fulfilled in life.
Yeah, I think in this context, what you said is true. Like I could come back with that argument because I do think that's accurate, what would happen. But I think if the thought was, you know, if I can't have children, I would never feel fulfilled and I would never be fulfilled. That I would believe.
Could I talk to you for a minute, Carly?
Yes.
You were helping me a whole lot a little while ago, you know, when I was talking about that I'm defective, and you really helped me hit that one out of the park. But I had this new thought that I need your help on. Could you help me with it?
Yes.
I forgot to tell you this one. What I'm telling myself is if it turns out that I can't have children, then I'll never be able to have a happy or fulfilled life. Is that true?
No, I mean, I think there's likely other things that fulfill you. This one's hard because I really don't feel like I have, you know, a lot of other things that would fulfill me as much as I think this would. I'm feeling challenged to tell you that, oh, there's other things in your life that will be.
Well,
really
I have a question for you. We can measure fulfillment on a score of 0 to 100, right?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
So you want to keep fulfillment as an all or nothing concept rather than a 0 to 100? I mean, you haven't had times in your life where you felt more or less fulfilled?
No, there have been times where I felt more or less fulfilled, but I don't think it's something that's like easily measurable, if that's what you're getting at.
Well, when you say you can't be fulfilled, you're meaning you can't achieve some particular level of fulfillment, since you just told me you've already felt fulfilled most of your life in varying degrees.
Yeah, I think in varying degrees I felt fulfilled, but I've never felt like completely fulfilled. But
what's the
I don't know if there's any way.
What's the highest level of fulfillment you've ever had at a moment, like a really happy moment?
A really happy moment?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd say 100% at a really happy moment.
Okay, so let me see if I understand what you're telling me. Although I've had 100% fulfillment in the past, you're saying that if I can't get a baby, I'll never have 100% fulfillment again in the future?
I think that there might be moments where I feel 100% fulfilled, but I think like overall with my life, I would kind of keep going back to that longing for having a child and would probably quickly fall back into a depression.
So you're telling me, as a dear friend of yours, that if I can't have a child, although I'll be able to have transitory fulfillment, it'll be nothing like the fulfillment that a mother with a child has, and I'll never be able to have a completely fulfilled life. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I think that's how I would feel. But it seems harsh to tell that to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why does that seem harsh?
I mean, because I think that I don't know, right, what my future might hold. So there could be something else that fulfills me. I mean, I could adopt children and that could be fulfilling in the same way.
Here we probably have an agenda setting issue, Jill, that I might want to believe this, and this isn't like some of your perfectionistic students type of thing, that this would be something, maybe this isn't something that you'd want to give up this belief that there's some special happiness associated in fulfillment with being a mother, that someone who hasn't been a mother could never experience that kind of fulfillment, right?
Yeah, no, I think you're right that I probably don't want to give this thought up. And maybe that's okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can I take a stab at a response that doesn't require you to give it up? I'm just gonna throw something out there. If you want to, I'll be positive Carly, and you could be negative Carly with this thought.
Okay. It was if you don't have children, you're never going to be fulfilled in life.
Yeah, I mean, I very much want to have children, right? My greatest value in life and the most important thing to me in my life right now is family. And so I really want to have a family of my own. And I'm at a stage in life where that's my main focus, right? I'm trying to get pregnant. I don't think I really need to worry about it not happening, though, because I have all these options, right? Like I can either I won't lose my fallopian tube, or I will, and I'll do IVF. Or if I couldn't get pregnant with IVF, I could try to find a surrogate. And if I couldn't find a surrogate, and I couldn't have my own children after years of trying, then I could still build a family by adopting a child. Like if I really want to be a parent, I'll find a way to be a parent. And so I think the idea of wasting my time and energy focusing on the possibility, that this might happen doesn't make a ton of sense, right? It's something that's important to me. And I think there are so many different ways that I could, make this a reality, even if it's not the easiest path, right?
Yeah.
So, who won that, you or me?
You did.
And was that big or small?
It was big.
Was that big or huge?
Huge.
And just let the tears flow right now. And just notice what you're thinking and what thoughts are going through your mind, what pictures are in your mind.
You want to share with us what's coming up for you as you're feeling tearful now?
Yeah, I think it's been, with all this happening, it's been hard for me to kind of see that everyone keeps telling me like, oh, no matter what, like you'll be a mother somehow. I've never met anybody who wants it and hasn't been able to make it happen, but that hasn't stuck. Like it hasn't really set in, but hearing you say that, it's true. Like, no matter what, I'll make it happen.
Yeah. And does that make you feel like sad, or just sort of you just sort of feel full of emotion?
Yeah, just full of emotion, not sad. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
good tears.
It's kind of a beautiful thought. I mean, again, I guess I'm just thinking that if it isn't your agenda to want it any less, or to think that it's super important, then it feels like it's helpful then to just embrace it and be like, yep, I want that thing, and I'm going to make it happen one way or another. Because the truth is, you do one way or another, like you can become a parent. Like that is true.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I was thinking about is you've been through all of this struggle without you've had some support at times, but most of the time kind of alone and without support, without people caring about you and talking to you about just how much this does mean to you and how frightened you've been and how much love that you have for a baby and for a family, and that you've been hurting terribly and frightened.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And, I think it's not that I don't at all believe that really people don't care about me. I think that was my emotional reasoning kicking in, but just, it makes people uncomfortable. And I think people don't know how to talk about it. So that's what's made me feel alone. Like, just wish, like, me wanting to talk about it all the time, but then people not really knowing how to respond or what to say. So I don't blame them for that. I just,
but that's what's happening with your husband too.
Yes.
Carly, could we do a role reversal on this last one? So you hit me with it. You said you felt like I won huge and you were kind of tearful. So could I hit you with that one?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not important that I win huge. It's important that you win huge, right?
Yes.
So, Carly, I just wanted to remind you that you're never gonna be able to have a child, so you're never gonna feel fulfilled in life.
Well, that's not true. There definitely would be a way that I would figure out to have a child and would feel fulfilled in life, whether I, need to go through IVF or other treatment or adopt children. There would be a way that I would make that happen, and I would feel that fulfillment.
And who won that, you or me?
I did.
And was that big or small?
Big.
Was it big or huge?
It was huge. I really liked the way that you said it. That felt huger, but I think that was huge.
Well, the only potential fly in the ointment, and you've done some beautiful work, and there's really nice notes for you. I haven't seen most of them. I just saw part of Jacob Towery's note, and I didn't even get a chance to read it, but I have a feeling I know what he wrote. And he's saying, and while I love my son tremendously, and he brings me lots of joy and fulfillment, many of my most fulfilling moments happen with patients and friends, at least me personally. And so we talk about a high-level solution and a low-level solution. And a low-level solution is finding happiness because you get what you want or because you know you're going to get what you want. And a high-level solution is knowing that you can be happy whether or not you get what you want. And you've opted for a low-level solution here, and that's pretty cool. And you've done a beautiful job on that. There would still be this other road, if you ever wanted to explore that. Is it true that women with children are feeling fulfilled and happy in a way that women without children aren't feeling? And Miriam, I don't have a child, and yet there are many moments of fulfillment in my life too. And when I think back on my own life, some of my happiest moments have actually, and most fulfilling and mind-blowing moments have been moments when I was alone, actually. But that's a topic for another day. You've brought us so much here tonight. Tell us what this has been like for you. And here's another nice note from Lee Harrington. I'm feeling so much compassion for you, Carly, and closeness with you. And I think Lee too has been someone who's lost things lately. Thank you for sharing so many different aspects of this journey with us, and so we can travel it with you. Carly, you will be a fantastic and loving mother. And then from some others, Here's something from Kai Chen. It's a link, though, to something.
Oh, it's the attendance sheet.
Oh, the attendance
That's typically
sheet.
my job, so he helped me out.
Yeah. Yeah. So at any rate, yeah. Tell us what this has been like for you.
Yeah, it's been really helpful. I think, like you said, it just created a space for me to finally like talk about it in a setting that was compassionate and empathetic, which I think I really needed that. And also, I think helped me to be a little bit kinder to myself, and also realize that it's going to be okay no matter what happens, that I'll figure it out and end up, having the fulfillment that I want.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We can open it up to the group. What we can do the end of session testing and get Jill your wrap up thing. Let's just see how you're feeling right now at this moment on sadness, depression.
Do you want me to share my screen again with the BMS?
You can if you like, or I'm just going to write it down right here on my own. It was I think 90, and your goal was 60. And how are you feeling?
Yeah. For the daily mood block. Okay. Yeah. Right now, I would say I'm feeling like 10%.
10, sure. How anxious are you feeling right now?
0.
How guilty?
0.
0. How inadequate and defective?
0.
How lonely, alone, and unloved, or whatever it was?
0.
Mm-hmm. How discouraged and pessimistic?
0.
How frustrated?
Let's say 5.
5. How angry and ticked off and upset?
0.
And in fact, there would be 2 paths for the future. One would be on the relationship thing. Mm-hmm. How to generate a more loving relationship by changing the way you communicate with your husband, and and then the other would be a kind of a high level solution, which may or may not be of interest to you. What were the healing dimensions tonight, and were these changes real? Because we're looking at, even though you've already had some good news, we're still looking at some pretty radical changes. Are these changes real? And then was there anything about the session that was helpful to you?
Yeah, like I said, I think the empathy was huge. I know you say that that's not like healing, but I think in this case, it was definitely a healing factor. And I think the double standard. Oh yeah, that was good. The first one, that was good. And then Jill's externalization of voices piece with the fulfillment. I think when you brought up that it was an agenda setting, and then I was like, oh, I think this is something that I want to hang on to. That I think allowed me to accept it.
That's cool. Well, I sometimes give empathy short shrift, but I can tell you that just a sentence, I can see how bad you're feeling, and I'm sad about that, and tell me more about that. Just a sentence like that could be so healing in the world. And we have that issue come up on podcasts all the time. Some mother saying, how can I get my anorexic daughter to start eating more? And people are trying to control other people all the time and do something to people or do something for people or help people and save them. And sometimes a little warmth and compassion can be so profoundly helpful in this world where there's so much loneliness. And so you're totally right in what you're saying. And
Yeah.
Jill will now bring this to
I just had
brilliant closure.
I just had another thought to offer, which was when we were talking about the agenda setting around like, I'll never feel fulfilled in life unless I have a child. I mean, in some ways, that's a very motivating thought to have, right? Like here is Charlie trying so hard to get pregnant and to stay pregnant and to have a baby. And so, telling yourself this is the most important thing in life and believing it may also be, not just like consistent with your value system, but maybe useful to you, right? Like she's doing all this research, she's learning, she's solving problems, and maybe it's going to help her get what she wants, And so, again, I just want to say that may not be something that you want to work on, right? Like we can think of that high level solution as feeling very like sort of liberating. And at the same time that it may not have a place for you at this point, because it may be working for you more than it's hurting you, I think is what I'm saying.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Let's see if we've got some comments now from our group who have been so patient to just be in the observer's seat, which is helpful because it allows us to move as fast as we can and to puzzle our way along. And as you could see, we were puzzled part of the time about what direction to go in. So now you folks can make comments. You've written beautiful things in the chat and ask Carly questions. And we can go back to, I'm going to go back to a gallery view now.
I had a quick question.
Go for it.
Okay.
Hi,
hey, how's it going, Carly? By
the way, does the group know where you're planning to move?
Oh, yeah, I'm planning to move to California, probably.
Southern California, I take it?
No. The Bay Area.
Oh,
actually.
Is there some attraction here in the Bay Area?
Yes, there is.
I'm just teasing, but that was my heart jumped for joy when I saw that.
Well, thank you.
Email.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm super excited myself, and so I just want to say thank you so much, Carly, for sharing. I was surprised when I saw the email with your daily mood log, and I was kind of shocked, and it seemed like very hurtful and very sort of negative thoughts. And I'm glad that you're feeling a lot better right now. My question is about when you kind of had that sort of kind of like a breakthrough with Jill, the externalization of voices, and Jill, you did a really good job over there. I think you hit the nail on the head. Because was there some sort of like value or like core sort of thing that you really wanted from what Jill had said? Because I wanted to know exactly what it was that kind of really resonated with you at that time. I think that was important.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there was some core value. I think it brought me back to my values and just allowed me to just accept that like this is what I want. This is the most important thing to me, and that for laying out like all of those different options helped me to see that like no matter what, I can make some form of this happen for myself.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No. That's good, because it almost seemed like, Jill, you were kind of moving towards a more motivational sort of approach. I might be misreading that, like because some things that you mentioned in the externalization of voices was in the positive reframing that Jill had gone over, and I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
It was also the self-defense paradigm, right?
Yeah, I mean, my hypothesis is that it was just a really deep form of empathy. I think that in some ways, Carly may have felt that we were going to try to persuade her out of valuing having a family and being a mother and thinking how important it was. And I think my response was just saying, man, this is clearly the most important thing to you. This is what life is about for you. This is what you want. You're going to make it happen. But I was saying it in the eye, right? So I wasn't like cheerleading her. She could have said that was a bunch of bullshit, right? But I was saying like, this is what I care about. This is the most important thing to me. I can make it happen in this way. I can make it happen in that way. And I don't have to sit here thinking it's not going to happen. There's like 8 different ways it could happen, right? Like it is in my control. I can make it happen. And I don't have to sit here worrying about it not happening. But I suspect it was just like a deep empathic moment, because I was sitting here, you know, maybe even as a woman, like kind of going like, this is what I want. And it's okay to say, this is what I want, you know?
Acceptance, accepting this is the focus of my life.
Yeah.
I see a big change with Jacob.
Yes.
Fantastic. The new Jacob. Yeah.
The screen, it's a new Zoom thing. It makes it look like the mohawk's gone.
Looks good. Your handsome self. You look more like a Buddha now.
Thank you. And Carly, I want to say I felt like before tonight, I didn't really know you at all. You were just kind of a square or a rectangle that appeared in the Tuesday night group. And I feel so honored that you were really vulnerable with us and real. And I just felt touched that you went through this with us. And I feel a lot, kind of like I know you a lot more than before, and I feel closer to you. So thank you.
That means a lot. Yeah, I think the only person I really like know here who knows me is Danielle, but that even was just in a professional context mostly. So joined during the Zoom era. So.
You know what, Carly? Just before somebody else jumps in, I knew some of this story already, but I actually didn't know the magnitude of all the things that you had to go through. So when I've heard the headlines, I really missed the bigger picture of how difficult, how hurtful, how traumatic all of this was for you. So really, my heart goes out to you. I think I have way more compassion and love for you, like understanding how hard it was. And it's funny because I've been one of those people who have told you, like, you know, you will get pregnant. It's just like so beautiful to see you actually hear it, you know, in this exercise. So I think the magic for me was, you know, the vulnerability of the moment, the, you know, awesomeness of the techniques, the skill that Joe and David were displaying. You finally heard it, and, you know, awesome. Kudos. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, Danielle and I went on a hike a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned that this had happened, but we didn't really get into the details. So thank you. Mary, you have your hand up?
Hi, Carly. Hi, I'm Chan Mary. I don't know you, but I just wanted to share that I feel so close to you right now, and I really care about you because I feel like your story, it really resonates with me. It's so near and dear and deep to my heart because I just want to share a little bit about myself so you don't feel so alone. But you know, I'm 33 and I'm unmarried, and I think about this all the time. And I so want to be a mother in the future. I want to build my own family. And I know tonight we talk about fulfillment to life, and, you know, being a mother doesn't always necessarily is the only contributing factor to fulfillment in life, but I see it a different way. I see that you have so much passion for life, and you just want to experience, you know, a motherhood, and you want to experience carrying a child, and you want to experience the love, you know, to have a child. So I completely understand you. And for myself, you know, I've been fortunate enough to find such a loving partner, but I've just got accepted to a psychiatric nurse practitioner program that will take 2 years for me to complete. And I've been thinking a lot about it. And I have to say, I've been feeling a little guilty by not prioritizing marriage by not prioritizing having a child right now, because I have so much fear that if I wait longer, what if I have trouble getting pregnant? And what if it doesn't happen at all? And it'll be my fault because I choose to wait and I choose, my career. But I just really want to tell you tonight that you've been so pragmatic with your story. You've been so problem solving. You've been handling everything with so much resilience. And, that really inspired me, because I know that, in the future, like if I can't get pregnant, I'll be like, okay, no, Carly thought about IVF, and, if that doesn't work, she thought about adoption. And so in a way, it really lessens my fear. And I just know that whatever happens, that you'll find your way, and you're definitely going to be a mother, and you're going to experience all the joy and happiness with motherhood. And I just really wish you the best. And I just wanted to let you know that I really care about you.
Thank you. That was so beautiful, and just really, really, just beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, if there's no other comments or questions, we can call it a night.
Wow, that was amazing. I have a lot of questions I want to ask, so let's just dive in. I don't know if we want to get some words from you, Carly, about how you're feeling now, several, I think by now, months after that personal work, and
as well Jill, as what's your memory of that session now and what stood out. And I know one tremendous highlight for you, but how did the session affect you, and what's been happening since?
Yeah, I think one thing that Jill mentioned at the end when people were asking questions about the impact of it was, this form of deep empathy that was given to me. And, I think the methods, although they were very helpful, I think that deep empathy that I received was really the most powerful part of the entire personal work for me. And I think, like we talked about previously, when someone goes through a trauma, like I went through, taking the time and spending that time on empathy is so important. And walking away, I just felt so heard and understood and really listened to, which I hadn't felt before. Yeah.
When someone is struggling with a loss or trauma, and you don't receive the warmth and support and comfort from the people around you, what is that like, Carly?
It's incredibly isolating and makes you feel really alone. And I think that's how I was feeling during that time.
I think the moment you're talking about is when you were doing externalization of voices, and you were trying to defeat a thought that that you won't have any value if you didn't have the opportunity to be a mother.
Yeah, that I won't feel, that I'm never going to feel fulfilled in life without children.
Right. And it was, you're doing a role reversal, and it was Jill's turn to be in your role, Carly. Mm-hmm. And she said to you, as you, that, I very much want to have children. My strongest value is to have family. It's my main focus right now. But I know I have options. I could do IVF. I could try hard to find a surrogate. I could build a family by adopting a child. So why am I wasting my time on the possibility that this may happen when I know if I really want to be a parent, I will be a parent? And that's when, in your reaction to that, you started crying. And I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit. Like, how was that so impactful for you?
Yeah, even just hearing it again right now makes me feel emotional. But I think I was like lost in this blur of hopelessness, like nothing was working out. And hearing that from Jill, you know, her externalizing my voice and my like inner voice that was kind of hidden for a little while, it brought it back, like this, the hope was able to find that again, and tying it back in the way that she did to my core values, like that this is who I am and this is what I'll do, and that I will make this happen because that's who I am. And family is the most important thing to me. Like that just made the hopelessness kind of vanish in that moment.
And then you made a comment a little while ago when we weren't recording that I really loved, with that when the hopelessness usually, I'd say nearly always, results from distorted thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that then when your hopelessness disappeared, your sadness wasn't like devastating like depression. It became almost a sweet or positive thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it was appropriate, right? Like the sadness was an appropriate way for me to feel given what I'd been through and what might have come in the future, right? So the way we were talking about it was if I had another ectopic pregnancy, right? So to think about that is sad, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean that I need to be hopeless because of that sadness.
She's been through a lot of pain and a lot of loss.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say one thing while we're on this topic is the other theme that brings up from more like a sort of therapist training perspective. And David, I think you highlight this a little bit in your notes, and we've definitely talked about it a little bit, but is that even if the therapist has this, belief or wish that the patient would maybe give up this belief, right? So I think David was, hoping on some level, right, that we could get Carly to this higher level of enlightenment where maybe she would think, I could feel totally fulfilled in life, even if I didn't have children. But that, in this case, would be the therapist's agenda and really not at all the patient's agenda. Right. And so it was kind of like a point of pause, I think, for us, and trying to figure out what direction to go in, and then to realize that it's actually really okay to sort of follow the patient's lead, and that her agenda, got her to a wonderful place in the end. Mm-hmm. And I also thought that this was an example of, even though there could be this higher level where one could feel fulfilled in life, without children, the idea that she would have to feel fulfilled in life without children was based on distorted thinking, right? Like she was not immediately facing never being able to have children, right? She had definitely a traumatic experience and a loss, but there were, in fact, many, many, many options still ahead of Carly. So in a way, it reminds me of, it's like if a patient bid on a home and lost their home, or lost the bid, right? But still has money and ability and many other options, for them to have to make peace with the fact that I'll just better be happy without a home. Isn't the next logical step, right? Like Carly wasn't at all ready to go there. It's not like that was a reality that she needed to accept. And so I think that's kind of part of it too, is like meeting her where she was at, which was, this is maybe a stumbling block, but definitely not, something that she would have to accept for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Jill. And thinking about that agenda that I think David was kind of wanting to push for at one point, this idea that like I need to have children to be fulfilled. And there's, I think in your book, in Feeling Great, like you say something like, when our wants become a need, that's when we feel depressed. And so I think there has been, based on what you helped me with, Jill, this shift to like, no, this is something that I really want. And mm-hmm. So seeing that I want that and being able to reframe that belief a little bit, like that I don't necessarily need this to be fulfilled, but I want this to be, part of my life, that takes a little bit of the pressure off and makes me feel less hopeless as well.
It's okay to want things and to go after them with all your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us how you've been doing. What's been going on since that time?
Yeah. So the three of you already know this because I sent out an email to the group, but I did very recently, right after the personal work that next week, did find out that the pregnancy that I was very excited about was a miscarriage. So I did end up not having an ectopic pregnancy, but I did have a miscarriage, which was, devastating. And I experienced quite a bit of really deep sadness that I think, again, was appropriate. But I don't feel hopeless. I think have a plan, and I'm really motivated to get pregnant again, and just living my life in the meantime.
I think the featured photo of you in the Big Sur with your sister's son, or
my nephew, Micah.
Your nephew, it's one of the most beautiful photos I've ever seen, and I look forward to the follow-up photo of Carly with your baby when that time comes.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Any other thoughts, Jill, or high points, or Carly or Rhonda? Teaching points, anything? You gave us some great teaching points already, Jill and Carly.
This is kind of off the subject, but sort of still on it. You were talking about deep empathy and do you think that, Jill, how do you know how to meet somebody where they're at? And how do you know to say, I've heard you so often, and you just pinpoint exactly what someone's feeling in the most warm, compassionate way. Is that something that comes naturally to you, that you were born with, or do you think you've learned that over the years of being a therapist?
Oh, I'm embarrassed by your kindness, and David and Carly as well. I will say I absolutely learned. I am an empathic person, but I always tell the story that when I moved to California now 14 and a half years ago, I think, and I met David and I started training with David. I had trained as a CBT therapist from day one of grad school and had done CBT-oriented internship, postdoc, et cetera. I was always a kind of hardcore CBT therapist. But when I met David is when I actually learned how to package CBT in this much more empathic model and how to address resistance. And so to me, the 5 secrets are a total game changer. And I learned these empathy skills by going to David's trainings, week after week, and studying really hard and trying really hard to apply those empathy skills, but not just with my patients. I do think it's totally a way of life. And I think about it all the time in all of my relationships. And I think about it when the person at the grocery store is putting my groceries in the bag, and I try to be empathic with my kids. And of course I fail too. I'm by no means perfect, but I do think that the 5 secrets and learning from David has totally enhanced my ability to connect with people. There's no question. And it feels like such an amazing roadmap, like a toolbox for how to connect well with human beings.
But you have to work at it.
Absolutely.
And it requires a lot of work. I've often said it's like learning to play the piano. You can't just sit down and start pounding on the keys and expect something beautiful to come out. I have to work at it all the time too, and continue to make mistakes and have to correct those mistakes. But it gives you a way of thinking even about your mistakes and how to correct them. But I think that there is such kind of a natural aptitude also, and I know you you said recently in the group something that was really amazing, that you never met a person that you didn't like. And I think that's a tremendous resource as well when you have that natural goodwill, because it becomes really, really infectious and acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy. And
I'll tell you one other funny secret about me, which is that, so I did always have a little empathy bug in my brain when I was a kid and teenager. Whenever I used to get mad at my parents and thought that they treated me unfairly, I would write them a letter. And it was because I didn't want to argue with them, but I wanted them to know exactly how I felt. So I'd write this long letter and I would tape it to the outside of my bedroom door, like, read this. And then I would shut my bedroom door and be like, there's a letter for you,
Yeah, that's great.
And then they would, and that, because I just, but the point being, like, the connection and the understanding and the hearing me was super important to me, but, in this, like, kind of calm, connected way. So I don't know.
I will say that, as like a trainee in your group, the Tuesday group, and, going through this experience of doing the personal work, in my role as like a psychologist, after experiencing that from you, that deep empathy, I was just like, whoa, that feels so good. Like, if I can imagine if I could give empathy like that to my patients, like what that could do. So it's been motivating for me too, to improve my empathy skills after just experiencing that from you, Jill.
Well, with that in mind, before we close, let me just say that you, Carly, are a clinical psychologist, and your specialization is working with adolescents and teens and young adults, among other things, who are perfectionistic and prone to anxiety and self-criticism. Certainly a hugely important and common theme, and I've put your contact information in the show notes. But if somebody doesn't read the show notes and they wanted to get in touch with you, what email should they use?
Yeah, they can email me at info@drcarlyzankman.com, and that's DR for doctor. So info@drcarlyzankman.com.
And it's Zankman.
Yes. CarlyZankman. Yes.
Right. And if someone wants to get some of this Jill Levitt's world-class empathy, and I've also put your contact information, but Jill is the director of clinical training at the Feeling Good Institute in Mountain View, and they can contact you. Find it in the show notes, but what's the best way to contact you?
Sure, via email as well. So Jill Levitt at feelinggoodinstitute.com.
And is that TUTTE? I misspelled it in the show notes and had to correct it. But yeah, feelinggoodinstitute.com. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rhonda. And to all of you, again, in the United States, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday by far, because it's just family and friends and be together and enjoy some wonderful food and togetherness, and without all the commercialism of some of the other holidays. So I hope it's a time of love and family and peace, and also, if you're alone on Thanksgiving, I can remember one or two when I was alone, and I'm very, very sad for you, and can identify with what that might be like too. So, all righty.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good Podcast.